Welcome to
Okay. Oh,
Ossiana.
actually, thank you for reminding me. Hold on. Let me change my perspective.
All right. Everyone who's coming in, welcome to Ossiana Talks to People. We've got Lasha Lane. We're just going to get a microphone real quick.
I can't hear you. I probably have to pop off and pop back in. So send me another invite.
We got a microphone. Okay, give me one sec. Fine. Um, all right. So what we're going to do is, sorry about that. We're just currently dealing with a little bit of technical issues. So I'm actually going to be using my microphone today. Once I actually take it out of the box. How's everyone doing? I hope y'all are doing good. Can anyone tell me if you guys can hear me? All right, just 1 minute. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me now? Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Okay, say something.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we decided we were having a little bit of a technical issue, but um, we've been talking a lot about the rise of fascism in the U.S. and um, in recent weeks, we've also seen a lot of journalists getting harassed online and in person. In fact, an FBI agent recently, there was an FBI raid on somebody from the Washington Post. Bezos, who owns the Washington Post, has been oddly silent. Um,
Mhm.
so basically, like, we've been seeing a rise in censorship, and in nowhere is this more true than in the adult film industry and in the adult industry as a whole. So my bestie Lasha, she is right now watching the, how should I put this? The fireworks pop on X.
Yeah, so has updated their terms of service recently. And for those of you who are probably living under a rock, all jokes aside, for those of you who are living under a rock and don't really know what's going on, there are so many different ways that your favorite adult entertainers make money when you're not jacking off to them. You know, a lot of those ways are creating their own special content. reels. A lot of our newer individuals are getting into educational programming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they're letting you know like what's going on in this industry. And right now, like one of the biggest things is the new terms of service that's happened with X. And X used to be really great for allowing you to put out your content even if it was just like your videos. And a lot of providers also use it to once Hesta Pasta came into the diaspora. A lot of sex workers who were doing full service sex work, were put into a corner. They were put into the shadows, and there was nowhere for them to talk amongst themselves. You know, we use things like Backpage, we use things like Twitter in order to connect each other and to make sure that we were able to stay safe
Mm-hmm.
within those communities. And the fact that Twitter's gone out of its way to continually put these like roadblocks in place. I will say that Twitter/X has been great in terms of getting our content out there. It's fine with porn, right? There's certain things where you can see that it's
Yeah.
fine with porn that's out there. It's fine with the little clips and all that stuff. But right now they put a new TOS that says things like um any any post that makes you or it makes it seem like you have ads or whatever um that's promoting offline sexual activity is an issue. And
Yeah.
because I'm on my phone and I'm recording this from my phone, I can't read like all of it right there and I don't have X on my tablet. Otherwise I would. But the new terms of service, it used to be okay for us to be like, okay, we're going to be in Brooklyn from January 25th to January 31st. And that's it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to live within the confines of what we're supposed to do. But now they're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Okay, you're there from January 25th to the 31st. What does it mean while you're there? And so they can take the implication of whatever that means there. So what I've been doing is finding out ways to help other not only just sex workers, but other adult entertainment aficionados or people who are in that industry that just want to meet their fans and who want to be able to capitalize off of the money they make from being able to offer erotic entertainment to those who
Yeah.
need it. Like erotic entertainment is mental health care.
It is.
Erotic entertainment is it keeps our country from going into a violent state of affairs that no one wants. We're
Yeah.
already talking about ways that men who are living in this quote unquote loneliness epidemic, we're already talking about putting safeguards in place for these men.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about putting safeguards in place for men who can't get laid?
Because they're not lonely enough. That's the problem.
They're not lonely enough. They're not, I mean, like, why are we willing to close the gap on men who are not trying to relate to anyone else, not just women, anyone else? Why are we doing that to ourselves? But this is where we are right now.
Well, right now, like I know that there's going to be a bunch of my fans asking why people like yourself are still on Twitter. I stopped using Twitter altogether because Blue Sky still allows adult content, though it's not as liberal as Twitter is. Um,
It's
people
not?
don't. Huh?
It's not?
I thought that they were like a little like they wouldn't allow P and V and stuff like that, but I might be wrong.
I don't know. And
I
I thought Blue Sky was there to circumvent Twitter.
Well, it might still be. You might wanna check on that because I haven't actually posted any adult content on my Blue Sky.
Uh huh.
Um, But what I can say is that a lot of people in the audience, if you guys have not been involved in the adult film industry, Twitter was such an institution of the adult film world, erotic services, everything like that, that like it's literally like saying, "Oh, let's go to New York City, but don't go to 42nd Street or Broadway." Like it is very, very hard to convince an entire industry to drop one of the, like, software kits that they were using, you know what I mean? And
It's
a
like
lot of
trying to
people.
get us to get rid of Mr. Number.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of, and I say us, but I barely scratched the surface of in-person full sex work providers that are out there. Excuse me, I have
Mhm.
hiccups so bad right now.
Mhm.
I barely scratched the surface of someone out there like Pomegranate who's doing this every day, 24/7. As someone who's a full service sex worker and who, as she says, is sucking and fucking to pay her rent all the time, every day, who's been deplatformed 6 times since I've known her, deplatformed for talking to you about what's going on in this industry. I don't even know what really boggles my mind is how she hasn't been blackballed. It boggles my mind how this woman has not been blackballed from the industry for talking about all this stuff and what it really looks like and how it is. And maybe it's because she hasn't called anyone out specifically and she's calling out the general, like the general way that sex work and all that and um what is it? And sex work and starts with an A. Um
Adult services.
No, activism.
Mm.
What that looks like. She hasn't really been targeted for anyone in particular. She talks about the system in itself, but a lot more people need to know. And once you start putting the name to it and putting like an umbrella on it, then that's when everyone gets like, "Oh, we can't talk about this anymore."
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people who they get deplatformed, who they get blackballed, and now with the change in Twitter terms of services, what people don't understand is that with sex work, the more that you have a paper trail online, the safer you are, because that lets family know, okay, if this woman is not back home by this day, something is wrong. If, you know, if this, and the other happens, who are the clients? How are you going to get a paper trail? Well, what's happening right now is a massive, massive work on deplatforming people and silencing that entire community online. And at first, that seems like it's a good thing because, it's like,
It's a
okay,
way to protect children.
it's a way to protect children. And hey, not everybody wants to see smut. But the problem is that it's not gonna stop at sex work, first off. And second of all, when they push it underground, that's when people end up really sinking their claws into the most vulnerable people.
Mhm.
And considering that when a sex worker dies, police call it no humans involved, you can't really get any more vulnerable than that. Like,
And
people.
what really boggles my mind is the fact that we had this quote unquote lonely male epidemic, right? This male loneliness epidemic, right?
Mhm.
And the fact that sex workers are out there doing what they do, this should be looked at as
Yeah,
a form of services that are mandatory in this world
yeah,
because the hoes that are out there, the prostitutes that are out there, there are some very highly empathetic women out there offering sexual services to men who would feel as providers who would feel so much empathy towards them and give them the kind of attention that they could not get in the regular world. Sexual services are needed. Sexual services are mandatory. A lot of men don't even know how to relate. That is why there are so many women out there. I mean, some women who can't even hold a job who are the best sex workers out there because they're able to relate to a man that no one else is able to relate to. They're able to whisper to them. That person is going to make this other person that's acquiring their services, a better individual to acclimate to the world. Like these services are
It's a form of
fundamental.
therapy.
They are. They're fundamental to how our society works. And that's why it's one of the oldest professions in the world. There's always going to be someone who is able to relate to you in order to calm the fucking beast.
Yeah.
Oh, she shouldn't let me see. There's comments coming in. Oh my god, I
Yeah.
can see the comments this time. Hold on.
Let's see. Decarceration says, I came in late, but was there a mention of Florida OnlyFans 50% sin tax proposed by a politician who
Yes.
previously had an OnlyFans account? Yes.
No.
And
Okay. Well, yes and no. Yes and no. To be completely honest, this guy, this guy probably had an OnlyFans account and had someone he was following for a significant amount of time who didn't give him the attention that he wanted to get, or he found out that the person that he was following had someone who was running their account and it wasn't the person there. So this guy from this point forward is going out of his way because he wants damage. He
yeah,
wants restitution for what was done to him. I understand it, but you have to also understand that these women, they're providing a service for you and they can't all give you the kind of attention that you deserve. And I know that sucks, but do we expect Beyonce to talk to all of us?
no, but for some reason, like porn stars with the same number of followers are expected to answer every single text. Now, I just want to know how that works. Elena says it's not always men that could use these services, and I'm like, yep.
Oh.
I was a Splenda mama for a bit, so I understand it. Like I've been
I
there.
mean, there aren't women. I mean, there are women, but here's the thing. If you go to China, right? If you go to
The host
China,
clubs.
there are women who are hiring these men.
Mm-hmm.
And these men don't have the same complaints that women have when it comes to buying sexual services or providing sexual services. Those male providers don't have the same kind of complaints that the female providers have. And I think that the more we're okay with these services being provided, the better of a society that we'll be. You know,
Yeah,
some people cannot thrive. They cannot thrive with everyday individuals, but they still deserve to have their needs met and they still deserve to be treated humanely by society. Just because they don't fit society standards, they still deserve to be treated humanely. And that's why sex workers exist because
exactly.
they give that person the ability to be treated like a human when others in our fucking society, especially alpha men, alpha white men, and all their money, power, and privilege, aren't going to make you feel comfortable.
Yeah. Like I'll be real with you. A lot of people grossly underestimate the importance of having people who are willing to do sex work. And it's funny because if we lived in a truly puritanical society where prostitution was completely illegalized, we would probably have like a major war within about a month.
Where it
Like,
was completely legalized?
no, illegalized,
Oh,
like totally banned. Like if all prostitutes were just like, you know what, I'm gonna do something else. I'm out. Like
well, we couldn't do that because people would be out in the streets raping us at astronomical numbers. You know,
exactly. I
that
mean,
stops us also being from sexually assaulted.
that's actually part of the reason I believe that India has the sexual assault issues that they do. Prostitution happens there, but it's extremely rare because it is so dangerous and it's at the point where more women are more likely to just work as surrogates for, wealthy foreigners than they are willing to service men there. And the funny
Mhm.
thing is that like there have been studies that men who are alone, who feel lonely, who do not have a mate or who do not get to mate become very violent. This is actually like a thing across multiple species. So it's interesting that, and decarceration says, it's interesting that we have to ignore Republicans who propose anti sex work legislation, but they're silent about the Epstein files illegally not being
They're
shown.
never gonna give them up, baby, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They all the shit
Like,
that they're doing right now is so that they never have to turn over those files. Those files would disintegrate what the United States stands for. Those
I
files
mean,
would break it down, our collusion with Israel and what we're willing to do in order to make ourselves look like a superpower in the world. Like,
yeah,
there's no fucking way
I
that
mean,
these files are ever gonna be released in their entirety.
I don't really think that we're a superpower anymore. I think that because so much of the files have come out already and they are so damning, I don't think a single person here respects American politicians anymore, especially not those on the right. At least not
We
the same
we
people.
were we were always you're so right. We were always just one of those guys that stood up in the corner and was like fake hardcore. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
that Billy Badass is like, yeah, we're the Wizard of Oz. The United States
Yeah,
is the Wizard of Oz. And everybody bought our bullshit for a
until they
long
couldn't.
time. Until they couldn't, until we had the clown of all clowns up in our front office, just distributing to the acts of the world just how false our amount of power is. And
Yeah.
watching him fucking dismantle like a fucking baby because he can't get a Nobel Peace Prize?
Dude, like, here's the funniest thing about all this. Let's say that America does fight back and we somehow manage to take back our country. There will never be another time when there's going to be European politicians willing to work with us. There's never going to be another time when China's gonna not be sitting there being like, "So, how many toddlers did this politician of yours rape?" There's
No,
never gonna be that's gonna happen.
I
It's
feel exactly what you're saying. Like, I
it's
totally feel
over.
exactly what you're saying, but I think that they're not gonna look at this as the entirety of our history. We've got 10 years with this fool so far, right? I just realized that. Like, we're in our 10th year with this fool. As soon as he's gone, dies, whatever he goes to, the world will reset itself and they'll start talking about like what's going on with America and all that because the world basically runs on the culture that we create for them, be it Black culture or whatever trends that are coming out right now. Also, the UK also, especially with music, they have a lot of stuff that comes out. But as far as like where we put ourselves in a position where people look to us first for whatever is going on. Once we get this asshole out of power, hopefully Vance doesn't go in next, but I think he will. But once we get him out of power, I think things will reset and people will realize that this little generational blip that we had was most likely the worst it will ever be.
I don't know about that because, like, here comes Ossiana in with her woo-woo shit, but
Totally fine.
there was always this shadow side to America. Like, America was built on colonization, slavery. There was always sexual assault. Women were always treated as chattel. It was only during, like, the past 70, 80 years that women actually had somewhat equal rights. And the truth is that both you and I know that even though we had them on paper, in practice, we really didn't in
Right.
a lot of cases. It was only because of the idea of operating on good faith and the idea of actually having laws that twisted people's hands that we were able to actually just like survive as human beings.
Mhm.
The truth is that until America comes to terms with its shadow side and the shadow side that it promoted so many other places in the world. I look at Iran, I look at Iraq. Iran actually used to look just like us in the 1960s. They had the short skirts, they had the cute little shoes. Like they some of them went to the beach in bikinis, but like We destroyed that by putting fascists in power there. We did that to Afghanistan. We were the Our country was the one that funded ISIS. This is just our comeuppance, and it's actually a known thing where if a country starts pushing fascist regimes in other countries as a way of destabilizing them and taking them over, that same type of fascism has a tendency of cropping up in its own society.
It's
So
intentional, though.
it's it is intentional, but they often don't realize that most people will start, you know, fighting fire with fire. If they start seeing people using right wing destabilization, going against women's rights, and the funny thing is that all this sex positivity, feminism, anti-racism, it's been literally statistically proven to improve the lives of everyone around, not just Black people, not just women, not just children. It's been statistically proven to improve society, make us more united, make us more industrious, and also make us more profitable as a country. The
Mhm.
fact that we're going so hard against this shows that one, America does not care about its own people. We have such a crazy shadow side to us that until Americans actually genuinely have a come to Jesus moment, they're not gonna do shit. That's does that does that make sense?
It does, but I mean, who's gonna give them that come to Jesus moment?
At this point, it's gonna take a lot of people, like, ending up in ICE camps. It's gonna take a lot of Trump's most devout people being screwed over by Trumpian policies, and half of them, I don't ever expect to actually, you know, wake up and smell the coffee, but the other half, they will.
So, there's this I've been diving deep in maybe some of your listeners 'cause there's a little talk about, like, Native Americans and in that society and all that in the chat right now. I'm not sure I'm not even sure if you know this, but, um this is gonna ruffle feathers. Maybe I shouldn't do this. No, I'm not gonna talk about it tonight. I'm not gonna do it because it's gonna ruffle feathers, and I think if I talk to you about this, I want you to do your own research on it first, because
That's fair.
yeah, I want you to, because it's gonna be like, "What are you talking about? They were who's the first Native Americans?" Like,
Yeah.
Siberia and Native American, for those who are listening here right now, do your research on that and what
Yep.
that reality looks like for North America or the Americas in general, and then we can have the conversation about, like, what being a Native American, like, means and how that was constructed, in the guise of white supremacy.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's so hard because these conversations are ones that definitely need to be had, but at the basis of at the base of all of these are so many talks about what white supremacy looks like and how that has been ingrained into the United States as a culture since its inception. I mean, and all since its inception, and there's really no way to talk about, like, the excellence of what we could be as a people until we really, like, dig further down deep.
Yeah.
But I think I feel like I've lost your question.
Kind of me too. Um, but yeah, like, it's been a whole week for me. But
Yeah.
what I wanted to say is, when it comes to, like, the internet and stuff like that, we're experiencing unprecedented clamping down. As we said before, there has been that FBI raid on the Washington Post with somebody who was basically the go-to for whistleblowing. We had the I actually saw on Instagram one of the trans people of color creators who I follow. They got a warning letter from the US government. They didn't say what branch or whatever, asking them to stop posting because it's considered to be dangerous trans ideology. And there's a lot
Or
more.
I don't understand that in general. Like, for a culture that loves femboys, that loves to break the internet on their visits to Grinder, um, that loves to be fanciful for all of their kinks, that loves
Hmm.
because they're so rich to find the things that are going to stimulate them mentally. Why is there such an why is there such an irritation about trans ideology? Wouldn't you want something different? Aren't you trying to find something that's out of the ordinary, or is it only out of the ordinary because you can access it? I think that that's another issue when it comes to the fight of transness, when it
Yeah.
comes to the fight of pornography, when it comes to, sex trafficking and stuff like that. It has to be exclusive only to them in order for it to be under the table and okay. But when some adult comes along and puts it in a package that's ethical and consumable for someone else, and the poors get to have it, that's when we have a problem.
Yeah. They really don't like it when they really don't like it when it's not rules for me, rules for thee and not for me.
Mhm.
Like it's actually very funny because I used to know this one girl. I don't know like why we like stopped talking. Oh wait, yes I do. It's because she was a stripper who had sugar daddies who were rich Republican men and that was actually her type. And she was a person of color. So she was helping these guys get their jollies off and everything. She was getting paid stacks. She was actually attracted to them, which I was just like,
Oh, sorry. I was getting excited because I thought she was coming up.
no, no, no. She was actually attracted to them.
Mm,
And,
so
she was like,
funny.
"You know," she was even like, "Have you considered, like, dating a Republican guy? Because they're, like, really, freaky." And I was just sitting there, I was, like, looking at her, I was like, "You good, girl?"
Is she a Black American, or is she,
"Yes,
like,
yes."
from like, her ancestors were slaves?
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
I
I
was
could see if that was an implant, like, first generation
nope.
fucking Jamaican or Caribbean or something, like, I could see if it was that, like, British or whatever, but these people, this is why I have a problem sometimes with my own people, because when I see a Black American, like, a literal Black American, like, your family is a descendant of slaves, when I see that kind of mentality, it really boggles my mind. I can understand it when it's like Jamaican, Caribbean, like British.
Yeah,
I can understand when it's someone who is not from like the South. Like I can get it when it's someone from outside the United States. But when it's from someone here,
yeah,
like that
yeah, I
coolish
was
behavior bothers me.
and I was, like, just sitting there, I was like, "You don't see the weird double standard where these guys are paying you crazy bucks and you think that they love you, but they're basically hiding you in the closet because they don't wanna be seen with you." While they're beating up on their wives. Okay, you don't see anything wrong with that, and you want me to get in on this. Um, no, no, that's not how this works. I'm pretty sure that my vagina just did this like weird like um sci-fi thing where it decided to just drop out of my body, crawl away and hide under the bed just to avoid
It
that stuff.
whenever people get really crazy about like babies and like, oh my God, I can't wait to have another baby. My uterus jumps out of my body and runs in front of a semi truck and gets hit every time. Like I can't
Yeah.
with that whole thing. So Disintegration was saying that he said, I mean, ignorance is bliss. Rich white guys are probably happy all the time, as long as their patriarchy isn't challenged. And it's funny, I would think that they would be happy all the time, but white people in general are rarely ever
No,
happy
like
unless they're like inflicting some kind of violence or some kind of like you have everything. Rich white men, especially and specifically, you have everything in the world, right? You have the illegals, right? The illegals being pushed out of the country. You
mhm,
have Roe v. Wade being overturned. You have women being basically forced into a state where if they do anything to their body and abort a fetus, they're going to go to jail.
or get killed.
You or be killed, right? Y'all should be fucking happy. Like, what is there to be miserable about? Like,
Well,
what
it's
is there besides women not fucking you?
no, like that's literally all it is. Like it's so weird hearing white guys behind closed doors and seeing like it's weird because right now I'm actually currently seeing somebody who is white casually, no strings attached.
Oh, yeah.
Um which is very unusual for me, but he's actually super liberal and he's like really really hot. Like
Hmm.
he's I didn't expect to get along with him as well as I did.
Especially
Um
in Jersey.
especially in Jersey, and like, he's a farmer, which is even weirder. Um
Farmersonly.com. Sorry. I'm sorry. I
dude,
told
like
you.
I'm sorry, but like I didn't think I'd be like as interested in him as I am, but I'm very interested. And like it's weird because like I've seen the difference between him and he's like mad chill, he's mad liberal. He's hopping mad about what's going on in the state of politics. But I'm still in Jersey and I live in a red area of Jersey, which means that I also, whenever I'm going out to eat or whenever I'm going out to drink or whatever, I will overhear some potato shaped fuck asses bitching about how things haven't gone as well as they'd hoped with Trump and why aren't women learning their lesson? And
Isn't it always supposed to learn?
I don't know. I don't know. And
Why is it always
it's the
our
dumbest thing.
question?
Like the thing is that they're always angry and it's not they don't want to admit it, but their anger is not towards us.
It's
Women
like
and
their
minorities
mom.
have always been a scapegoat for them. It ain't even their mom. Sometimes.
It's their
Sometimes it
mom.
is. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, most of the time it is. They don't have mommy issues, they have a mommy subscription. But like a lot of the times they're just angry at themselves because they're not where they wanted to be in life. And they keep thinking, I was supposed to have the doting housewife with three kids, and I was supposed to have this, this, and this. And things aren't working out the way that I should. Women are afraid of me. And when you get to a certain point of like self-loathing, it starts becoming like a never-ending cycle where you're sitting there, you're like, people don't like me because I'm this, and I don't like them because of their this. They don't like me because I just lashed out, and it just kind of turns into a cycle. Like,
It's hilarious how a lot of these white men like are dealing, especially these days, because you know how the whole affirmative action thing got overturned for the colleges, right, and all of that, and it's because people like Charlie Kirk were upset that black women were coming in there and stealing their spots,
and then they
right?
still
But
can't
then,
get the spots without the
right, they
affirmative
still
action.
can't get the spot. They still can't get the spots right now. But here's the most ironic thing out of the whole thing, right? Um, and Charlie Kirk was one of those guys that got their quote unquote position taken from a black woman. Yet he and fucking Candace, what's her name, were fucking the whole time. Like, how are you gonna be mad at us, right? How are you gonna
Wait,
be mad
what?
at us but still want us?
Wait. Charlie Kirk and Candace?
Candace Owen?
For real?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's why
If
Erica didn't want her anywhere fucking around, even though that bitch didn't want him at all. He was mad
um,
because she went with the bed. He went with the bed wench, and all of that. But that's why she's fucking around with JD Vance, allegedly.
I yeah, if you heard that loud popping noise, that actually was my jaw unhinging.
Not all white men identify with the Donald. I mean, that's kind of a duh. But let's put it like this: the majority of white men are at
They
least
do.
2 degrees, 2 degrees away from agreeing with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And when I say 2 degrees away from agreeing with Donald Trump, it's only going to take them very little to get them to call you a bitch. That's
Mm-hmm.
going to be the first step, is them calling you a bitch. And the second step is going to be that identifier of what kind of bitch you are. Are you a
Yeah.
black bitch? Are you a lesbian bitch? Are you, you
Poor
know,
bitch.
a stupid bitch? You know, yes, they are, Elena.
Ale- Actually, Elena, she does have some very how should I put this? Her sons are super respectful because even though she can be a little bit headstrong as a commenter, she's actually a mad cool chick. I'll give her that.
I mean,
And
great. But all men are a step away from being
so
disrespectful to a woman in the right environment.
yeah, so
Every man,
while
just
we're
like every woman, is a step away from becoming disrespectful to a man in the right environment.
so
None of us are exempt from that.
so let's talk a little bit about the whole disrespect thing because you actually touched on something that I've been thinking about all morning. Now, all of us know about what's going on with Minneapolis and ICE and everything, and the murder of Rebecca Good. I mean, Renee Good, and how as soon as she kind of stood up to him, all the ICE guys just kind of like poo poo poo. One of my friends from the South recently said something interesting, and she said, "This is something that I've seen in the South all the time. The minute that you say no to a man, or the minute that they see you as disrespecting a man in the South, that's when the punches come out. That's when the claws come out. That's why you see a lot of Southern women when they have a trauma response towards men. It's not fight or flight for them, it's fawn. And
I'm
we've got a lot
fighting.
of, huh?
I'm fighting.
I know, but like we've got a lot of these guys. I think that the guys from ICE are from these kinds of regions where women are just terrorized into fawn reaction, and they were not expecting northern women, especially not northern Midwestern women, because like the Midwest is famous for being polite. They weren't expecting Midwestern women to stand up to them. And I think that's
They
kind of
weren't
feeling the rage.
expecting they weren't expecting white women to stand up to them. They weren't expecting anyone to stand up to them. What they thought is that they were going to come in there waving their guns and everyone was going to go, okay, because that's how it's been. And that's where we're at. And until the current protesters are out there really inflicting like some good amount of reputable harm, mental, physical, whatever, it's not going to change.
Yeah. Like
Huh.
Trump was even saying, oh, well, she was disrespectful, so she deserved it. That's the kind of entitlement that we're seeing. And that's why they don't like us speaking out.
This,
That's why they're sending all
but the
these
thing is that
warnings.
this is a man thing. Have you seen any female ICE agents out there?
There was one who actually did an expose, and she said that she quit around the time of 9/11. And
Yeah,
apparently
she.
they hazed her by raping her. That's why you don't see many female ICE agents. They're being raped in order to get in. And I'm sure it's gotten even worse since like 9/11 era. A lot of those people, they're like former Proud Boys, they're former J6ers, they're former Ku Klux Klan members. I know that at least one or two senators are members in the Ku Klux Klan. I found that out from friends of mine who actually worked in the political
Oh
system in the South.
God, I'm sorry. I'm
But
sorry. I need to stop reading the comments. I want to stop reading the comments because I kind of want
guys,
to rip. No, no, no. It's totally fine. I'm going to be on my best behavior because these are your friends
guys,
and they
be
don't
nice.
know me, and it's okay. I'm gonna let them
Yeah.
do what they do. Um, and I'm gonna just like not
Okay.
because
So so
some feathers are being ruffled because the justification of me saying these things, it shows how, white supremacy and male supremacy, and especially those who really want to appeal to men in general, um, feel as though they need to be and have a softer approach to the sensitive man in their life. And I'm not going to kowtow to
well,
that
no,
kind of behavior.
decarceration actually is agreeing with everything you've said. He's mad cool. I think that there's just a little bit of a mistranslation here. But let's get back to the idea of like how they've been clamping down. Now, I think most of us have heard about the latest Trump idea, which was, what was it, NC7 or NE7, something like that. It's a new proposed law where if it passes, it's going to be able to declare something as a domestic terrorist organization if it does not go with the state. This is pretty much co opting national security as a way to suppress people speaking out against the government. And
Yeah, like Pussy Riot. Like Pussy Riot
yeah,
in
like
Russia.
Pussy Riot. And it's interesting to see how much they've been declaring as a domestic terrorist thing and
Mhm.
how much they've been trying very, very hard to ramp up the limitations on speech and the limitations on constitutional things. The raid on the Washington Post was a big one simply because they were trying to make a statement. The threat of, everything being a national security threat, saying that trans speech is like hate ideology towards straight people. All of this stuff is done like it's starting to come out lightning fast and people are fucking sick of it. And I've noticed on sites like Reddit, people have mentioned that stories have been getting muzzled, that comments after a certain point no longer will accept upvotes. And it's insane to watch at how much information is being gagged by the people, the billionaires who are behind all of this.
What are we doing about it?
A lot of us are now starting to work our own networks. There are now like a lot of us are switching over to Signal. A lot of us are switching over to, a bunch of other things.
Mhm.
Some of us are actually just, eyes and ears only chats, or, just copy and printing books and guides that help other people.
Mhm.
Um, but
How
the
many
interesting
what I'd like to know right now is that I'm completely curious because there's a lot of intellectuals out there doing a lot of the work. You know, there's a lot of people writing think pieces, and there's a lot of people like trying to shift change, like Deontay Kyle and Amanda Seals, are out there trying to like shift consciousness and work as activists in that way and thought producers. And there's also those who are, working behind the scenes as far as politics and stuff are concerned. But there's no groundswell. And I'm wondering why there isn't a serious groundswell. I'm seeing a lot of people out there that are being funny about this. Like, I get it in the beginning, especially in like Seattle and Portland and all that, where like their zaniness kind of came into play, but when, there was a whole thing when George Floyd was killed where there was a whole bunch of people talking about how all lives matter. And there was a whole bunch of people that were talking about like when one dies, we all die.
Mhm.
And how they were willing to put their bodies and stuff on the line for stuff like that. Where is that energy now?
So that's the funny thing. It's still there. Like
It's
if
not there. It's not
you
there.
think it's not
People
there
are not
because
dying in the streets. People are
they
not
are.
getting attacked by dogs
They are.
who?
As of right now, ICE has shot about three different protesters. One has been permanently blinded. There have been
No, no, no.
multiple.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I know about her. And I know about the black man that was killed on New Year's Day
Did you hear?
by ICE. What
Did you
I'm
hear
talking
about
about
John
is
Abernathy?
no, what I'm talking about is the groundswell from those murders. There is no outrage.
There
There is
is.
no when it comes to like let's just take Boston for example, right? When Boston like lost there's a World Series or something like that, some sporting thing that this city or state lost and people took to the streets destroying property and getting all up in arms about it. Where is that groundswell and where is that kind of outrage for a white woman dying in the street when all lives matter?
So I'm going to tell you right now that I've personally noticed that mainstream media has been trying to tamp down on coverage of the protests. on coverage of what's going on in Minneapolis and throughout the state. Um, I've heard so much of people saying that they're like what we're seeing online right now is just like 1% of what's going on. There have been major riots. There have been cars that have been completely and utterly vandalized that belongs to ICE. Um, there have been hotels that have literally lost business, had people threaten them because they house ICE. So like it is a domestic terrorism thing, and people are there is a groundswell. But the problem is that we're not being allowed to show it. We're not being allowed to see it. All of that stuff is getting muffled. CBS, yeah, Yanni Hamburger says CBS is outright lying to keep people tamped down. There was actually video taken of them trying to get a
Yeah. Oh,
propaganda
sorry.
there. They said that a dangerous protester tried to run over ICE agents, and then you could actually see that it was all being set up, and they actually had cut like people actually like directing stuff. You can't fight everywhere, and and decarceration also points out something else. People are more worried that they actually will be shot to death,
Good.
and
Because people are
unfortunately,
going to have to die. And I saw that. And that's why I was responding to him in there because I feel like this is a very
yeah,
important conversation to have. And I think that when it comes to if we think about what happened in the 60s during the Civil Rights
hmm
Act, right? And all that, right? We think about that. And we think about how many people lost their lives. And we think about how sometimes there's people in the world that say like nothing, I mean, things happen for a reason and things happen the way that they're supposed to happen. I don't know if you believe in a higher power. I'm not one of those people sometimes, but sometimes I believe that things have to happen in order for change. And no big change has ever come about without significant amount of people losing their lives.
and you have
And
to
so many
remember,
people are so scared of dying that they're not willing to die in order to usher in change. And that's why our government is willing to do what they want to do to us because they know that people care more about living and their money than they care about positive change or change in general.
correct, and that's one of the things that allowed Hitler to rise to fame and power in Germany. Now, the other issue that we're seeing is that there is a magic number here that they are trying to avoid and they are dangerously close to. That number is 3.5%. If 3.5% of any country starts protesting, chances skyrocket that change will have to start swaying in a way that the protesters want. This is
We were
actually the
there. We were there on No King's Day last year.
we were, and it's
But
only getting
because no
bigger.
one is willing to die, they're not going to change.
Well, here's the thing. We're getting to the point where a lot of people have nothing left to lose. We're seeing record
No,
numbers of bankruptcies. We're having record numbers of people whose families are getting torn apart. We are seeing record numbers of everyone who are getting really ticked off on a lot of different things. They often say that America is only like 3 meals away from a revolution. And while there's a lot in the comments talking about like uh there's gonna if you really truly want the white community to be out in the streets, there's gonna have to be a lot more white bodies stacking up. And that is a big issue. Like one of the reasons that you're not seeing people fully invested in this is because Renee Good was probably one of the first people I know of to actually, be the, nice white girl. No, know what happened with Lasha, but I'll continue talking for the rest of the hour if necessary. Um, where like people actually saw a white woman getting killed, and it was a mother of three. You know, a lot of white people will not do anything until they start seeing people who look like them being hurt. And it sounds terrible for me to say that, but that's the God's honest truth. With the way that humanity has been built and how we evolved, while we are social creatures and while we will do things for, the social props or whatever, or just to keep connections with people, um, Americans and just basically everyone try to avoid conflict unless they feel like they will be in danger next if they don't. So, like, that's one of those things where if if Trump starts to victimize more and more people who are white rather than people of color, that's when you're going to start seeing that major groundswell. And when it gets to the point where Trump's own followers start to turn on him in large amounts, like where the brainwashing no longer works, where it's overridden, that's when you're going to start seeing real serious sweeping change. In my opinion, the reason that Trump went against minorities and trans and made them into the boogeyman is because they were easy targets. If he was to go after the big guys, the big kid in school, then he would probably get crushed. Minorities and trans people are not the majority of American citizens. Well, at least the majority of American voting citizens. We're now a minority majority state in several states because, there are more children of color than there are white kids of color. And that's actually kind of cool. But they're doing that to push empathy is wrong. They're doing that so that they can clear out the people of color and the minorities who absolutely would have people's backs in civil rights fights and civil rights concerns. Without minorities and the LGBT community, we would not have a lot of the civil rights that we have. They've been the driving force behind every single major civil right movement in the past 100 years. Of course, Trump is going to go after them first. But as we all know, there was a famous Nazi who was a priest who said that he was a big fan of Adolf Hitler until, um, you know, they came for him. And that guy's name, I actually just looked it up. It was Martin Niemöller. First they came. First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. That is where we're at, and that's why these communities have been targeted. And that's why we're seeing such a huge clampdown, such a huge tamp down on everything from sex workers to LGBT to even things like just, pagan and Jewish accounts. They've all been targeted. And the sooner that we all realize, and I speak to my fellow white people about this, the sooner that we realize that white people will eventually be the next group, the poor white people will be, or the recently immigrated white people will be, the better. Don't stop speaking out. Share links. Make sure things go viral. And tell CBS to go suck it. Um, yeah, I guess that's the end of today's Ossiana Talks to People. Um, I'm glad I could see you all here. I'll see you later. Bye.